Let me guess, you have clicked on this video to see 3 interesting ways to incorporate metallic watercolor paint in your works. Well, guess what? I will actually show you 4. Yes, you are getting a bonus technique today as well. For those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Layla, professional artist. Welcome to my art studio and my channel, where you can learn lots of painting and drawing techniques, as well as relax and pick up very useful tips to propel your own art practice. Okay, so the first technique that I'm about to show you is a technique where you can add a little bit of iridescent or metallic watercolor paint onto your existing painting. So you create a watercolor and then you might like to bring attention to certain things, like for example, here in this artwork, you can see that I have this quick little scene sketched up with a pencil and watercolor. Now I might like to add a little bit of those highlights and the reflections on the water that the sun creates, just to give a little bit more of that atmosphere in the work. So this is how you do it. Before you use your iridescent or metallic paint, it is a good idea to soften it with a little bit of water before you even begin your painting session. Okay, so here I'm choosing to use a very light iridescent blue, and I'm going to just create little specks on the water. So this technique is done on a finished and dried watercolor painting. So first you paint the scene that you want to paint, and then you find natural areas that tend to have a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of highlight, and you bring those out with the use of your iridescent or luminescent colors. You can choose to do it all throughout your subject or just in a couple of places. It is entirely up to you. Now I'm going to switch up a color and use a very light green iridescent shade. Now on your regular watercolor painting, you get an effect that can appear and disappear depending on which angle you are viewing the artwork from. This kind of technique is absolutely wonderful for areas that are naturally glistening or glowing or reflecting light, like for example, fire, water, snow, moonlight, and so on. So you can really play up those things in a really fun and interesting way. If you're finding this tutorial useful and helpful, you might like to check out my Patreon page, where just for a small contribution to this channel, you will be able to unlock many new videos that are not available here on YouTube. They would include tutorials, giveaway videos. On Patreon, you can also participate in feedback videos where you can send me your artworks and I will give you a thorough critique, as well as give you directions on where to follow from where you are, and so many other things. So make sure to pop over there and check it out. Now this second technique is a technique where you can completely substitute your regular watercolors for iridescent metallic watercolor. So for this example, I'm going to show you how I'm going to paint this feather that I found just outside my house. We get lots of cute parrots having, jumping around, and sometimes birds try to attack them, and sometimes they have fights, and so on and so on. So these really beautiful feathers, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is a little bit sort of iridescent on its own already. So I've got a little bit of the green going through and the purple and so on. So it's probably quite hard to see on the camera in its full glory. I don't know if you can see the drawing well, but I've sketched out the feather itself, and now I'm going to use iridescent colors without using the regular watercolor paint. I'm starting with the darkest, sort of like a dark gray iridescent color, or perhaps black, and I am creating the darkest areas of the feather. Now in this area, as I move along, I can see that there is a little bit of sort of a brown, almost copper color that's coming through. So I'm going to pick up some of that and add that in. Now with this technique, you can mix your colors just like you would with watercolor, regular watercolor paint. So for example, you can use golden and blue to achieve green shades and so on. And then the green. If you watch my videos regularly, you would know that I always say to you guys that using watercolor in a reasonably thick way is a big no-no. And it is true, except for when you are using iridescent watercolor paint in the technique that I'm using right now. So here you can actually pick up watercolor quite thickly. Make sure that you do add water to it because you want it to be flowy enough for your brush to go and create lines and patterns without breaks. But you can get away with using this paint in a much thicker way than you normally would your regular watercolor. So what you get at the end of this technique is a reasonably realistic representation of an object, but also it creates that magical look because you get these very, very beautifully interchanging iridescent colors within the actual object itself. So you get something that looks one way is when the light directly hitting this artwork, and it looks very shimmery when the light hits it from the side. So you can see that beauty of interchanging colors and lovely iridescence. So this is the technique number 2. Now let's move on to the technique number 3. Now the technique number 3, I find it's the most fun technique for me personally, and that's when you use your iridescent paint on black paper. It doesn't have to be strictly black. It can be dark blue, dark brown, just a really, really dark shade of paper. So I have a piece of black paper here, and this is perfect for those situations when you are creating a very glowy scene. So for example, a sunset over water, or a moon shining over water, or anything that you really want to stand out and glow, because as you know, iridescent colors have a very different look when they are used on black paper versus on white paper. For example, you can see when I was testing out this set, you can see the difference of these two on here. So for this technique, just to be quite quick with this video, I will show you a very simple, very interesting sketch. So I'm going to use a grayish pearly color with a little bit of green and sort of blue in it, and I'm going to paint a circle. Now I'm doing it freehand, but you can always use a pencil if you'd like to sketch things out or perhaps transfer things. And just like with watercolor, you can always use a different intensity of color by grabbing more paint or more water. Now you can see how when more water is added to metallic paint, when it is used over a dark piece of paper, you can see how beautifully that iridescent changes from lighter to darker and creates lovely reflections. And now I'm going to use the same color and I'm going to apply a few little highlights. The closer you are to the foreground, the more distance you should leave between the waves or highlights on those little waves, and the further away it is from you, the closer those highlights would be. It's just a part of the aerial perspective. Now this is what it looks like when I have used just one color, but you can always add other shades, like for example a little bit of gold, or the pearlescent sort of gold. And also add that color through the water reflection. And you can use any of your shimmering colors to create this technique. You can use oranges and red shades of iridescent watercolor, blue and purple, and every time you will get a very beautiful, very serene scene. You can always add clouds and stars and all sorts of other things that might be catching the shimmering light of the moon, or it doesn't even have to be a moon. It can be any kind of interesting celestial body that's shining the light or reflecting it in this situation. And with this technique again we are getting this really beautiful iridescence, but this time it's on black paper, so it's almost floating above the paper and really sucking you into the artwork. And now, as I promised, a bonus technique number 4. Now, this is not so much of a realistic representation of something, but this is something that you can surely have a lot of fun with, especially if you love signing your artworks, or if you love creating cards, special messages, and things like that. So for this technique, you would want a paint brush that is quite flexible and has a good point to it, and any contrasting color. So this technique is more like almost like a calligraphy type of technique, even though it's not really a proper calligraphy. So what you can do is you can write with this paint. So here we go. What you can also do is add other shades to have a little bit of a color change. So here I'm using a darker shade, almost like a shimmery iridescent black in one area of the lettering, and a more of a pink color in the other area. You can always use your smaller brush for more pronounced details and extra swirls. There are just so many variations and possibilities that it is really just down to your imagination. You can use different color paper, different colors of iridescent metallic paint, and different colors of just your non-iridescent regular watercolor paint as well. So let me know, what do you think of this fourth bonus little technique that is sort of in between the painting and calligraphy world? Well, what do you guys think? I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what else you'd like to see from me. And as always, I want to say a big thank you to my wonderful patrons who are supporting this channel. Wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And also, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Give this video a thumbs up to let me know that you liked it, so I can make more videos like this for you in the future. Well, anyway, check out the videos that are probably popping up right now on your screen, and have a lovely day. I'll see you soon in the next video.